Once upon a time, there lived a woman named Jeneba. Jeneba was married to a very rich man named Ibrahim. She was very respectful and kind, but her husband's sisters, Amina and Titi, hated her so much. Jeneba's family was very poor, and Amina and Titi warned their brother not to marry her. They wanted their brother to marry their friend Zainab, who was the daughter of the king's brother. Amina and Titi had introduced Zainab to their brother Ibrahim in the past, but Ibrahim was not interested in Zainab as he loved Jeneba so much. Jeneba was unaware of all this and married Ibrahim, not knowing that his sisters were strongly against their marriage. Ibrahim warned his sisters to stop ridiculing his wife, but his sisters refused and only looked for Jeneba's trouble whenever her husband was away. Jeneba's marriage to Ibrahim was not easy at all, as her husband's sisters always looked for reasons to insult her and torment her life. Many years passed, and Jeneba was yet to have a child of her own. Amina and Titi capitalized on this situation to always ridicule Jeneba at every given opportunity. They reminded Jeneba of her inability to have children, and this always got to Jeneba, who remained hopeful that one day she would have children of her own. Amina and Titi were unmarried too, with no children, but they decided to be a thorn in Jeneba's flesh. One hot afternoon, Jeneba took a stroll to the stream. She enjoyed her walks to the stream whenever she was overwhelmed, as the waters gave her a sense of calm. Jeneba remembered all she had been through in the hands of her husband's sisters and suddenly began to cry. As she was crying, she saw a very old man who asked her why she was weeping. Jeneba told the man her story, and the old man had pity on her. He told her that soon her worries would be over. The old man also told Jeneba that sunshine comes after the rain and that she should never forget that. Jeneba felt comforted by the old man's words as she thanked him and headed back home. Her husband's sisters continued to torment her, but Jeneba noticed that all they did never bothered her again. Instead, she held on to the old man's words that sunshine comes after the rain. Several months later, word got out that the king's sons were on the lookout for a wife. The king had two handsome sons who were of marriageable age. So, the king sent for his most trusted servant, who had served him diligently for decades and was now his closest friend. The king put his trusted servant in charge of selecting the maidens who would be presented before his two sons to choose as wives. All the maidens in the village began to dress their best so as to stand a chance to be chosen by the king's trusted servant. Amina and Titi began to frequent the palace as their friend Zainab, who their brother rejected, was the king's brother's daughter who lived in the palace. They pleaded with their friend Zainab to recommend them as prospective wives to the king's trusted servant, and Zainab promised to talk to the king's servant on their behalf. All their lives, Amina and Titi have dreamt of marrying from the royal family. They have rejected several suitors because they could not see themselves marrying anyone who was not a part of the royal family. One day, Amina and Titi were home when they saw a very poor and old looking man walking towards their brother's house. "Who are you looking for?" they asked, and the poor man revealed that he was looking for Jeneba. "I thought as much," said Amina, who began to laugh at the old man. Amina and Titi began to call the old man condescending names, saying that they did not know why their brother decided to marry from a poor and wretched family. They ridiculed the old man, who felt terrible and began to walk away from them. The old man left their house as he could not believe how young women would be so rude and disrespectful. Many weeks later, one of the king's guards arrived at Amina and Titi's house. The guard informed them that they had been chosen and had to appear before the king that evening. Amina and Titi were extremely happy as they could not believe that their dream of marrying into the royal family was finally becoming a reality. That evening, they arrived at the king's palace and met a few other maidens there. One of the king's guards then announced the arrival of the king, his sons, and the king's trusted servants. To their amazement, Amina and Titi saw the old man they insulted the other day. He was the king's trusted servant who had come to see Jeneba the other evening. They actually thought that the old man was part of Jeneba's poor family. Little did they know that he was the king's trusted servant. He met Jeneba at the stream few weeks ago and decided to pay her a visit that evening. The old man wanted to see if Jeneba had maidens to recommend to be the wives of the king's sons. But when he arrived at Jeneba's house, Amina and Titi insulted and drove him away. The king's trusted servant now told the king what Amina and Titi did to him the other evening when he went to visit Jeneba. He also went on to reveal to the king how the sisters had been so wicked to their brother's wife, and the king was disappointed and sent his guards to throw Amina and Titi out of his palace. The news of Amina and Titi's wickedness quickly spread around the village, and no man in the village came to ask for their hand in marriage. Amina and Titi soon relocated to a faraway village where no one knew them, as they planned on starting a new life. Amina got married to a man who she believed was rich, but later found out that he was a liar who only pretended to be rich to marry her. Titi, on the other hand, got married to a very wealthy man who was violent and abusive towards her, and she never had a child in her marriage. The sisters regretted their decisions and wished they treated Jeneba better, as they stood a greater chance of becoming the wives of the king's sons, but ruined it all with their wickedness. Not long after, Jeneba got pregnant and gave birth to a very beautiful girl who many years later got married to the son of the first prince of the village. The lesson to be learned from this story is that your beauty or connection may take you through the door, but your character will either keep you in there or kick you out of that same door. Never look down on people no matter the situation. Learn to accept people for who they are and not necessarily what they have, because some people might not be wealthy but have access to something which will transform your life forever. Be wise. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.